The rain hammered against the flower shop window as Eden's hands trembled, arranging white peonies for an anniversary couple she'd never meet. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. Not because of anything she'd done, but because of something she couldn't undo. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in, tall, Russian accent, dark eyes that scanned the shop like a predator assessing prey. And when his gaze found her, Eden's entire body went cold. "I'm looking for a blonde woman," he said, his voice like gravel grinding. Mid-20s, works in a flower shop, lives on Capitol Hill. And, he paused, letting the silence build tension. She leaves umbrellas outside neighbors' doors. Eden's hands froze mid-motion. The peony stem snapped. She looked at Irina, her mentor, who immediately stepped forward to block the man's view. "I don't know anyone like that," Irina said, but her Russian accent thickened the way it always did when she was lying. The man didn't believe her. He could tell she was protecting someone. He left a card on the counter, his voice dropping to something that sounded almost like a promise. "If your memory improves, call me." After he left, Irina grabbed Eden's shoulders with a grip that hurt. "Stop," she said. "Whatever you're doing for that neighbor, stop. You're in danger, real danger. Flowers with hidden thorns don't just look pretty, they draw blood." And that's the moment Eden realized. The person she'd been secretly helping for 5 months wasn't just some sad, lonely neighbor. He was dangerous. And now, his danger had become her danger. If you clicked on this video, you felt something. That tension. That sense that someone was about to lose everything because they cared too much. If you want to know what happens next, if you want to understand why a girl would choose to stay with a man from a dangerous world, please hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because this story is about to take you somewhere you won't expect. Somewhere dark and beautiful and absolutely terrifying. 2 months before that moment in the flower shop, Eden Price had moved into a small apartment in Denver's Lodo neighborhood. The streets were historic original brick buildings, exposed wood, the kind of Denver that still felt real. The apartments were affordable because the neighborhood hadn't been gentrified yet. It was quiet. It was safe. It was lonely. She'd brought a single potted orchid with her and placed it in the hallway window, where it could catch whatever light filtered through the old glass. The orchid was small and delicate and seemed impossible to survive in such a confined space, but Eden had always had a gift for making beautiful things grow. She was lonely. Not the sad kind of lonely that makes you cry every night, the quiet kind, the kind that makes you invisible. After your parents die in a car accident when you're 19, and your grandmother, the only one who raised you through it, passes when you're 22, friendships start to feel impossible. How do you explain that you can't just get over it? How do you tell people that you're scared love will be taken away again? So Eden stopped trying. She'd thrown herself into flowers instead. Flowers didn't ask you to be okay. Flowers just needed light, water, and care. And in return, they gave you beauty. That was a transaction she understood. On her first day in the apartment, she'd left a friendly note for the neighbor in Unit 4. She'd written it carefully, trying to sound warm without being weird. Trying to build community in a building that felt empty. The note said, "Hi neighbor, I'm in Unit 2. Welcome to our quiet little corner of Denver. Hope to see you around." No response. But she kept noticing him. His footsteps in the hallway were quiet, the footsteps of someone trained not to be heard. His hours were irregular. Sometimes he'd be home for days, other times gone for weeks. When she did see him on the stairs, he never made eye contact. His dark hair was always slightly messy. His forearms were marked with old scars that she tried not to stare at. And his eyes looked like someone who'd seen things he couldn't unsee. "You know what that kind of guy means?" Irina had asked her one afternoon at the flower shop after she'd mentioned the mysterious neighbor. "That kind of man? The kind with scars and empty eyes? He doesn't need a girl who leaves him umbrellas. He needs a girl who understands that some people are beyond saving, as well." Eden had argued back. "You don't know anything about him." "I know the look," Irina had said. "My first husband had that look. He was in things I couldn't understand. He died in things I couldn't understand. And if you're not careful, you'll lose yourself trying to save someone like that." But Eden couldn't help herself. The ritual started. On rainy days, And Denver had many rainy days in February. She'd leave an umbrella outside his door. He always returned it within 24 hours, folded with precision. She'd sweep the ash from his cigarettes off the stairwell landing. And every time she climbed the stairs, she'd hum songs her grandmother taught her, old Russian lullabies. Songs her babushka had sung when Eden was small enough to sit in her lap. Lulya, Lulya, Biusenka, Kot pribehit, I smiatenka. She'd hum softly, her grandmother's words moving through the hallway like a prayer. It was stupid, probably, but it felt like the only prayer she knew anymore. Her mentor at Botanica Flower Shop noticed the change. Irina was a Russian woman in her 60s who'd been a florist for 40 years. She could read people the way Eden read flowers by noticing the small, almost invisible details. One afternoon, while they were working on wedding arrangements, Irina pulled Eden aside. "You're becoming a ghost," Irina said, her accent rolling over the words like smoke. "I see you here, but you're not here. Your heart is somewhere else. You're hiding your heart away. You know what happens to flowers without light? They wither," Eden whispered. "They die," Irina corrected, with more force. She grabbed Eden's chin, forcing her to make eye contact. The older woman's eyes were fierce. "Don't hide yourself. Not for anyone. Not for some man you don't even know. Your heart is the only beautiful thing you have. Don't bury it." Eden wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because Irina was right. Eden was hiding. She was pouring all her loneliness into small gestures for a stranger. She was extending her grief through someone else's life, and that wasn't healing. That was just postponing the inevitable moment when she'd have to face her own emptiness. She should have stopped. She didn't. The day started like any other. Rain. Customers buying arrangements. Eden working on a Valentine's display even though Valentine's Day had passed. February, in Denver, was always gray. Then he walked in. Tall, Russian accent, but harder than hers. Eyes that moved across the shop with purpose. He approached the counter, and Irina greeted him with the automatic smile that service industry people use. Then his eyes found Eden, and the smile on Irina's face froze. "I'm looking for someone," he said, his English careful and deliberate. "A blonde woman, mid-20s, works in a flower shop, lives on Capitol Hill, and I'm told she leaves umbrellas outside neighbors' doors." The shop went quiet. Irina stepped forward, and Eden had never seen her mentor move so deliberately. It was protective. It was immediate. "I don't know anyone like that," Irina said. "You're lying," the man said, but without anger. Just statement of fact. "Maybe I am," Irina replied, "but I'm not helping you find her." He left a card on the counter. The name on it was Sergei Kozlov. "If your memory improves, call me." After he left, Irina locked the shop door and turned to Eden. She didn't ask questions. She just grabbed Eden by the shoulders, hard enough to bruise, and said the words that would change everything. "Stop," she said. "Whatever you're doing for that neighbor, stop. You're in danger. You understand me? Real danger." Flowers with hidden thorns don't just look pretty. They draw blood. Eden stood frozen as Irina explained. Irina had connections. She knew people, and she'd heard things about a man living in Lodo, a man involved in things that made Russian gangsters nervous. That's why Irina had been so protective from the beginning. That's why she'd warned Eden over and over to stay away. "But I've only left him umbrellas," Eden said, her voice small. "It doesn't matter," Irina said. "If someone is watching you, if someone knows your patterns, you're not invisible anymore. And that means you're in danger." Eden walked home that afternoon in a daze. The rain soaked through her clothes. Her teeth chattered. And the entire time, she was replaying every moment, every umbrella, every note. Every time she'd hummed outside Unit 4. Had someone been watching? Was the neighbor really involved in something that would make gangsters search for her? When she got to her apartment, she didn't go inside. Not yet. She stood in the hallway, staring at Unit 4, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might be having a heart attack. At 11 p.m., she couldn't stand the not knowing anymore. She knocked on his door. It took 30 seconds to open. That's a long time to stand in a hallway, waiting for a door to open, when you're terrified about what's on the other side. When it did, she understood why her heart had been racing every time she saw him on the stairs. He was tall, taller than she'd realized. His dark eyes were intelligent and exhausted and dangerous in a way that made every survival instinct scream at her to run. But he didn't step toward her. He stepped back, inviting her inside. His bare chest was marked with more scars than his forearms had hinted at. "I'm sorry," Eden said quickly. "I brought someone to your door, to the flower shop where I work. Someone was looking for me, someone named Sergey, and I didn't understand." "Come inside," he said quietly. "Now." His apartment was sparse, minimal furniture, bare walls, and then her eyes adjusted, and she saw what shouldn't be there. Surveillance monitors showing different angles of the building, hallways, and exterior, maps with marked locations, files, and on a table near the window, a small stack of papers in a neat pile, her notes, every single note she'd left for him. He'd kept them all. "My name is Dmitri Volkov," he said, closing the door behind her, "and I need to tell you something that's going to change how you understand the last 5 months." Dmitri explained it carefully. His family ran a protection organization. Not quite organized crime, though. The line was blurry. They operated outside typical law enforcement. They protected people who couldn't be protected through legal channels. They enforced loyalty, sometimes through violence, always through power. Sergei Kozlov had been Dmitri's father's lieutenant, one of the most trusted men in their organization. And 6 weeks ago, Sergei had started selling information to their rivals. He was planning a coup. He wanted to take over the organization, and he'd been surveilling Dmitri for weeks, learning his patterns, learning his vulnerabilities. And then, he'd found Eden, and he'd understood immediately. She was the vulnerability. "The man at your shop," Dmitri said, his voice careful, "believes you're my weakness. He thinks that if he has you, he has leverage over me. And he's right. He would have." Eden's stomach fell. "Would have?" "If you stay with me," Dmitri said, "then you're not leverage. You're a choice. You're a person I've chosen to protect. Do you understand the difference?" She didn't, but she nodded anyway. "You've been coming to this building for 5 months, Dmitri continued, leaving me things, singing to me, being kind to someone who doesn't deserve kindness. And I kept your notes because," he paused, and for the first time, his hardness cracked, "because you made me feel human. When I was becoming a weapon, you reminded me that I was still a man." He showed her the photos then. Photographs of her daily routine, her walking to work, her buying coffee at the same cafe every morning, her at the flower shop, her in the grocery store, her in the hallway outside her apartment. Each photo was time-stamped. Each one was proof that her life had been documented, studied, analyzed by people she'd never met. "This is what it means," Dmitri said quietly, "to be in my world. This is what you're standing in the middle of right now." "What do I do?" Eden asked, and her voice sounded very small. Dmitri pulled a card from his wallet, a thick, cream-colored business card. "You call this number. You tell them where you want to go, anywhere in the country. They arrange everything. New city, new name, new identity. You disappear, and then you're safe." Eden stared at the card. "And if I don't want to disappear?" "Then you stay," Dmitri said. "And you're in danger, real danger. The kind that doesn't end with a grand gesture or a confession. The kind that means you're marked." Eden looked around the apartment at the surveillance system, at the weapons she could now see more clearly, at the maps with locations marked in red. This was a world of darkness, and she was standing at its edge. "Teach me," she said. "What?" "Teach me what danger looks like. Teach me what I'm walking into. I don't want to run from something I don't understand." Something flashed across Dmitri's face. For a moment, she thought he might refuse. Then he nodded. "Pack a bag," he said. "Essentials only. We're leaving in 5 minutes." They left through the service stairwell. Eden's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. A black sedan was waiting in the alley below. Roman Markov, Dmitri's security chief, was driving. He was a large man with kind eyes that seemed incongruous with his obvious lethal capability. The moment they pulled out of the alley, Eden realized this was real. This wasn't a movie. This wasn't a fantasy she could wake up from. This was her life now, and she couldn't get out. Roman drove with precision, moving through Denver's streets with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. Dmitri sat next to Eden in the back seat, but he didn't touch her. His phone buzzed constantly. Each buzz made his body tense. "How long have they been watching me?" Eden asked. 6 weeks, Dmitri said, "since they found out about you. But I've only known you for 5 months. They found you a month after I met you," Dmitri said. "And they watched. They learned your patterns, and they planned." Eden's hands were shaking. Dmitri took one of them, and his hand was warm and steady. The phone buzzed again. Dmitri checked it. His entire body went rigid. "We're being followed," he said quietly to Roman. "Silver sedan. 2 cars back." Roman didn't say anything. He just took a sharp left turn, and the tires squealed. The sedan behind them matched the turn. "We're changing plans," Dmitri said, his voice going cold and calm in a way that terrified Eden more than panic would have. "Take us downtown, to the penthouse." "Sir, that's exposed," Roman said. "I know," Dmitri replied. "Take us there. It's time to stop running." The drive became a chase. Not dramatic, not high speed, just a calculated series of maneuvers designed to throw off pursuit while appearing to move naturally through the city. Roman drove like someone who'd trained for this. During the drive, Dmitri pulled up files on his phone. He showed Eden photographs. More photos. But these were different. These were screenshots from traffic cameras, security cameras, social media. Her entire life was documented. Every coffee, every flower arrangement, every moment she'd thought was private. "This is what it means," Dmitri said, showing her each image. "To be in my world. You're never invisible again. You're never alone. Someone is always watching." "Why are you showing me this?" Eden asked. "So you know what you're choosing," Dmitri said. "So you understand that there's no going back to invisible." After what felt like hours but was probably 30 minutes, they arrived at the penthouse. It was on the top floor of a building downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the South Platte River and the city lights. It was warm, nothing like his sparse apartment in Lodo. There were books on shelves, photographs on the walls, a record player, art that looked expensive and personal. This was where Dmitri actually lived. The sparse apartment was just a place to keep the world at arm's length. Eden walked to the window. The city spread out below them, like a map of possibility and danger. "This is yours?" she asked. "Ours," Dmitri corrected. "If you want it to be." She wanted to ask what that meant, but before she could, her phone buzzed. A text from Irina. "Are you safe? Tell me you're safe." Eden showed the message to Dmitri. He nodded. "Tell her yes. Tell her you're with someone who will protect you." Eden typed the message. And then she realized she'd made a choice. She'd chosen this. She'd chosen the danger. She'd chosen him. In the morning, Eden woke on a couch in the penthouse. She'd fallen asleep waiting for Dmitri to come to bed. Instead, she found him in a conference room with 5 other men. She stood in the doorway, watching. Irina's voice was coming through a speakerphone. Dmitri's face was stone. Sergei sent a message. Yuri Krasner, the intelligence lead, explained. He was a thin man with gray at his temples. "He's offering a deal, safe passage out of the country in exchange for the information he's stolen, and he guarantees he'll leave the girl untouched." Dmitri's hands clenched into fists. "He doesn't guarantee anything. This is over." "He's accelerating," Yuri continued. "He wants to meet. Tomorrow night, a warehouse in North Denver. Exchange of information for safe passage." Dmitri stood up, and the entire room shifted. When he moved, it was with the kind of violence that didn't require any physical contact. "No meeting," Dmitri said. "We're ending this tonight." But then Roman interjected. "Sir, if he believes she's your weakness, we could use that. Stage a relationship debut. Make it public. Let him think she matters. Then a very public breakup. Make her worthless to him. Once she's not valuable, he has no reason to touch her." Dmitri was quiet for a long time. Everyone in the room was watching him, waiting for him to reject the idea. And then he nodded. "Do it," he said. Eden felt something crack inside her chest. Because she understood what he was saying. Maybe Dmitri cared about her. Or maybe she was just a strategic asset, and she had no way to tell the difference. Dmitri found her on the penthouse balcony. The morning light was golden. He looked exhausted. She felt exhausted, just looking at him. "We need you to do something for me," he said, "and I need you to trust me. If you're going to lie to me," Eden said, turning to face him, "just tell me now. I can handle danger. I've proven that, but I can't handle not knowing where I stand with you." Dmitri stepped closer. The wind pulled his dark hair across his forehead. "You stand with me," he said. "That's the only truth I have right now. Is that enough?" It wasn't a full answer. It was evasion, dressed up in honesty, but it was all he could give. So, she nodded. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "I need you to pretend," he said. "I need you to play a role for a few days, and then I need you to trust that I'll protect you after." Eden could have asked more questions. She could have demanded transparency. But sometimes, love isn't about having all the information. Sometimes it's about choosing to believe that someone else is making the best decision they can, even when you can't see the full picture. "Okay," she said. The restaurant they chose was in Cherry Creek, Denver's most upscale shopping district. It was the kind of place where the waiters had practiced their movements until they were almost invisible, where the other diners were people with money and secrets. They arrived separately. Eden first, nervous in a dress she'd never worn before, dark green silk that Dmitri had bought for her. She sat at the bar and ordered a drink she didn't want, just to have something to do with her hands. Dmitri arrived 20 minutes later. He wore a charcoal suit that looked like it had been tailored specifically for the shape of his body, and when he saw her, something shifted in his expression, like he'd forgotten, for a moment, that this was supposed to be an act. He approached her like they'd never met, like she wasn't the girl who'd been leaving him umbrellas and humming songs outside his door, like she was just a beautiful woman he'd decided to pursue. He pulled out her chair. He ordered for her the wine, the appetizers, the main course. He demonstrated intimate knowledge of her preferences. She'd mentioned once, weeks ago, that she preferred lamb to beef. He ordered the lamb. "You look beautiful," he whispered across the table, and the way he said it made her believe he meant it, not as part of a performance, but as truth. "Is this part of the plan?" she asked. "No," he said. "This is separate from the plan." They had dinner. He held her hand under the table. He looked at her like she was the most important thing in the room, and throughout the entire meal, she could feel eyes on them. Sergei's men, sitting at other tables, taking photographs, documenting the relationship for analysis. The hardest part was knowing that tomorrow he was supposed to throw all of this away, to make her public devastation the cost of saving her life, to confirm to Sergei that she was worthless to him. When they left the restaurant, Dmitri held her close as they walked to the car. Outside, under the Denver night sky, he whispered something against her hair. "Tomorrow," he whispered. "Tomorrow this ends one way or the other." The next morning the flower shop was busy, customers coming in for weekend arrangements, Irina moving between the workstations with practiced efficiency, Eden trying to act normal, but her hands were shaking. Every arrangement she touched felt like it might fall apart. Dmitri arrived at exactly 10 a.m. The moment he walked through the door, the dynamics shifted. He looked angry, cold. He looked like someone ready to shatter her in front of everyone. "We need to talk," he said, his voice harsh and public. Irina immediately stepped outside, but she positioned herself where customers could still see through the window, a witness, like she'd known what was coming, like she was ready to protect Eden if this went wrong. Dmitri grabbed Eden's wrist not hard enough to leave marks, but hard enough to look possessive and cruel to the watching eyes, to the security cameras, to Sergei's men who were undoubtedly monitoring. "This ends now," he said. "You were a distraction, a pleasant distraction, but a distraction nonetheless. I don't have time for distractions." Eden's eyes filled with tears. She didn't have to act. The pain was real. The betrayal was real. Everything was real. "Is this because of last night?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Because I thought we had something real." "You thought wrong," Dmitri cut her off. "You're nobody to me. You always have been. Useful for a moment, but ultimately insignificant." The words landed like punches, and then, for just a moment, she saw his hesitation, the way his jaw clenched so hard it looked like it might break, the way his eyes betrayed him, showing her the truth beneath the performance. She pushed him away. "You don't mean that." "I do," he said, but his voice had cracked. And that's when everything changed. Dmitri released her wrist. His hands came up to her face instead, cupping her cheeks like she was something precious. His voice dropped from harsh to desperate, from performance to reality. "I can't do this," he said. "I can't pretend that you mean nothing to me, because you mean everything. Do you understand? Everything." He pulled her into him, and Eden could feel every muscle in his body shaking. Every customer in the shop had stopped what they were doing. Every flower was suspended mid-motion. The entire world had paused. "You're not leverage," he continued, his voice rough with emotion. "You're not an asset. You're not a weakness. You're a choice. My choice. And I'm done hiding it." He looked directly at where he knew the cameras were. Directly at Sergei's men, wherever they were watching from. "This is my woman," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And anyone who tries to touch her, I will kill them personally. Anyone. I don't care what it costs me. I don't care what it costs my organization. If anyone tries to hurt her, I will end them." Then he kissed her, in front of the customers, in front of Irina, in front of the entire city. And Eden realized something in that moment. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is tell the truth. It was a choice, a declaration, a commitment that transcended protection and entered the territory of devotion. When he pulled away, there were tears on his face, and on hers. Irina came back in immediately. She was crying too. She gripped both of them by the shoulders, pulling them close. "That's love," she said, her Russian accent thick with emotion. "That's a man choosing you over everything else. That's a man willing to go to war for you. Don't let him go." Dmitri didn't come back that night. Eden waited at the penthouse, pacing the floor, unable to sleep, unable to do anything but imagine worst-case scenarios. What if he'd been hurt? What if Sergei had retaliated? What if this had all been a game and he'd never cared about her at all? Roman called at 4 in the morning. His voice was flat, professional. "It's handled," he said. "The threat has been neutralized." Eden understood what that meant. Sergei was dead. Dmitri had done what needed to be done, and he'd done it alone, in the darkness, carrying the weight of that violence by himself. When Dmitri finally came home at 4:30 in the morning, he was covered in blood that wasn't his. His clothes were soaked. His hands were shaking. He didn't say anything about what had happened. He didn't have to. The evidence was written across his skin. Eden didn't ask questions. She led him to the shower and helped him wash away the blood. She watched the water run pink, then clear, and when he was clean, she held him in the darkness of their bed, two people entangled in something neither of them could escape. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what?" Eden asked. "For bringing you into this. For not being able to protect you by keeping you out." Eden pressed her forehead against his. "I chose this. I chose you. Don't apologize for letting me make my own choice." The next day, Dmitri called her into his office. The penthouse had multiple rooms, and this one was lined with books and papers and looked more like a library than a command center. He sat behind a large desk and gestured for her to sit across from him. "This is over," he said. "Sergei Kozlov is dead. His organization is in disarray. The threat to you has been neutralized." Eden's heart sank, because threat neutralized meant her purpose was fulfilled. It meant she was no longer needed. "What are you saying?" she asked carefully. "I'm saying you're safe now," Dmitri replied. "I've arranged a new identity, new city, new job, everything you need to start over." "And if I don't want to start over?" Eden asked. Dmitri stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the Denver skyline. "Your life is in danger just from being near me, from being associated with me. I was wrong to let you stay this long." "I'm going to say this once," Eden said, standing up to face him. "And I need you to listen. My life was in danger from the moment you kept my notes, from the moment you cared about me. But I'm still here. I'm still choosing to be here. So you either accept that I've made my decision, or you tell me to leave. But you don't get to protect me by lying to me. You don't get to make my choices for me." Dmitri turned to look at her, and she could see the conflict on his face, the desire to protect her, warring with the need to keep her. "If you stay," he said, "I will teach you to fight. I will train you. I will make sure you can protect yourself. I will do everything in my power to keep you alive. But you have to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll stay yourself. No matter what my world asks of you, stay yourself. Keep that orchid. Sing those songs on the stairs. Live authentically, even if the world around you is dark." Eden nodded. "I promise." Dmitri crossed the room and took her hands. From his desk, he picked up a key. It was real, not a metaphor. A key to the penthouse. "This is your safe place," he said. "Whenever you need it, whenever you feel afraid, it's yours, always." They settled into a routine that felt almost normal, given the extraordinary circumstances. Dmitri would go to work, and Eden didn't ask what that meant. She didn't ask about the meetings, or the phone calls, or the brief moments when she could see the weight of his decisions on his shoulders. She went back to Botanica. She went back to arranging flowers and working with Irina. And when she came home to the penthouse, she came home to someone who was learning how to be human again. One evening, Dmitri came home and found Eden tending the orchid she'd brought from her old apartment, the one from the hallway window. It had bloomed, small, delicate white flowers that seemed impossible given the plant's sparse conditions. He stood beside her and placed his hand on the small of her back. His touch had become familiar, comforting. "You did that," he said. "You made something beautiful grow in impossible conditions." Eden leaned into him. Their bodies fit together like they'd been designed to. "We did it together. This plant survived because you let it, because you didn't send it away just because it was fragile." In the weeks that followed, Eden learned things about Dmitri that made her understand him in ways that alternated between tenderness and terror. His father had been the king of their Mafia organization. His mother had been killed in a drive-by when Dmitri was 16. She'd been in the wrong car, wrong place, wrong time. That violence, that loss, had hardened him into a weapon. But Eden had cracked that weapon open just enough to see the man underneath. And Dmitri learned about Eden's losses too, about the empty space in her life where her parents and grandmother should have been, about the reason she gave so much to people who didn't ask for it. Because love, for her, was the antidote to grief. It was the thing that made loss bearable. One night, they lay in bed, and Dmitri said something she'd never forget. His voice was quiet in the darkness. "I know what I am," he said. "I know what I've done. But with you, I feel like I could become something different." Eden didn't tell him he was wrong. She didn't tell him it was impossible. She just held him and let him imagine a different version of himself. Because sometimes that's all anyone needs, the possibility of change. 3 months after Sergei's death, Dmitri was in his office when Roman knocked on the door. The conversation was brief. Old family associates, rumors about Dmitri being distracted, weak. They were testing boundaries. But Dmitri didn't immediately order a hit. He called Eden. "I need to handle something," he said, "and I want to do it the right way." That night, Dmitri's organization became smaller, and Dmitri became something different than his father had been. He was still dangerous. He would still kill to protect what was his. But he wasn't consumed by it anymore. He had something to live for, someone to protect, someone he wanted to be better for. Eden became the reason he had something to lose. And that wasn't a weakness. It was a direction. It was purpose. It was love. One evening, Eden was waiting for him on the penthouse balcony. The city lights were spread out below them like stars that had fallen to earth. Denver was beautiful at night. Dmitri wrapped his arms around her from behind. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what you said, about becoming something different." "What about it?" Dmitri asked. "I think you already are," Eden said. "You didn't have to change the plan at the flower shop. You didn't have to publicly claim me like you did." You didn't have to teach me to fight instead of sending me away. You chose differently. Every single time, you chose differently. Dmitri buried his face in her hair. I chose you. You did, Eden agreed. And I chose you back. The orchid that had bloomed so delicately months before had spread across an entire shelf. The fern from the old hallway window thrived in their penthouse. Other plants had joined them. Small green things, surviving and flourishing in what should have been a hostile environment. Because that's what kindness does sometimes. It doesn't just survive. It transforms the world around it. It doesn't just comfort the person receiving it. It heals the person giving it. If you made it this far, you understand something that a lot of people don't. Love isn't about finding someone who's already good. Sometimes, it's about seeing the good in someone no one else believes exists. And sometimes, that's enough to save them. And sometimes, the person who saves you is the same person you're saving. Sometimes love is mutual salvation. If this story hit you, if you felt something in your chest when Dmitri made that public declaration at the flower shop, if you understand why Eden chose to stay despite all the danger, if you think about what it means to love someone who's been shaped by violence, then please do me a favor. Comment below and tell me what you felt. Did you root for them? Do you think Eden was brave or foolish? Do you believe that love can change someone? Tell me, because those comments drive the algorithm, and they help me create more stories like this. And hit that subscribe button. Next week, we're releasing a story about a woman who fell in love with her boss, and it's darker than this one. More dangerous, more twisted. The boss isn't just involved in organized crime, he's the architect of it. And the woman who loves him has to make a choice between loyalty and survival. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying till the end. That means everything. Your view time matters. Your engagement matters. You matter. The orchid continues to bloom.